The galaxy had known peace for 3,000 years, not because beings had stopped fighting. They still fought. They still went to war over planets, resources, and pride, but they had found a better way to do it. Robots. Every species in the Galactic Concordance used machines to fight their battles. The idea of sending living beings to die in combat seemed barbaric, primitive, and wasteful. Why would anyone risk precious organic life when metal and circuits could do the job? Admiral floated in his command sphere, watching the battle unfold on dozens of holographic screens. His crystalline body caught the blue light of the displays as he observed his drone fleet engage the enemy. His species had bodies made of living crystal. They were beautiful but fragile. A single strong impact could shatter them into 1,000 pieces. That was why they had built the drones. Below him, in the space around a small mining colony, thousands of combat machines clashed with each other. His drones were sleek silver shapes that moved like dancing lights. The enemy drones were bulky underwater designs, built by a species that lived in deep oceans. Neither side had a single living soldier in the fight. "Status report," said calmly. "We have lost 412 units," his tactical computer replied. "They have lost 537. Victory probability stands at 73%. Nodded, this was how civilized beings conducted war. No screaming, no blood, no grieving families, just numbers on a screen and machines that could be rebuilt in a factory. The battle ended 2 hours later. The fleet retreated, leaving the mining colony in control. Total casualties, 0 living beings. The damaged drones would be collected, repaired, and sent out again. It was clean. It was efficient. It was the only way. The galaxy had known war for 30 centuries. Then the sensors detected something strange. "Admiral," the tactical computer said, "we are reading unknown vessels entering the system." Turned his attention to a new screen. A fleet of ships had appeared near the edge of the solar system. They were ugly things, built from crude metals with none of the elegant curves that marked Concordance technology. Their engines burned dirty fuel that left trails in space. Their weapons looked like ancient projectile launchers. But that was not what made Crystal heart pulse with confusion. "The life signs," he whispered, "that cannot be correct." Each ship was filled with organic beings, hundreds of them. They were not passengers or commanders watching from safe rooms. The readings showed them at battle stations in the engine rooms, manning the weapons directly. "They have no combat drones," the tactical computer confirmed. "No automated defense systems of any meaningful capacity. The organic beings appear to be, the crew, all of them, had studied ancient history. He knew that long ago, before the great civilizations rose, primitive species had fought their own wars with their own bodies. But that was millions of years in the past. No modern species would ever." "They are hailing us," the computer interrupted. The main screen flickered and saw the aliens for the first time. They were soft-looking creatures, with smooth skin stretched over dense muscle. They had 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs. One of them stepped forward and spoke in a language the translator quickly decoded. "This is Captain of the Earth Vessel Horizon. We come in peace. We have traveled a very long way to find other life in the universe." Stared at the creature. It was small, compact, with black hair cut short and eyes that seemed to miss nothing. When it smiled, noticed its teeth were flat in front but pointed on the sides. The teeth of an omnivore, a predator that also ate plants. "Greetings," replied carefully. "I am Admiral of the Concordance. We welcome you to civilized space. May I ask, where are your combat forces, your automated defenders?" The creature called tilted its head. "Our combat forces, they are right here," she gestured at the beings around her. "We are our own defenders." Felt something he had not felt in 200 years of life. Fear. He dismissed it quickly. These were obviously primitive beings who had not yet discovered the technology for combat automation. They were to be, not feared. The Concordance would help them, teach them, show them the civilized way. "I see," said, keeping his voice warm and welcoming. "You must come from a very young civilization. We would be happy to share our technology with you. No species should have to risk organic lives in conflict." The alien soldiers on the screen exchanged looks. One of them, a tall male with broad shoulders, actually laughed. It was a strange sound, deep and rumbling. "That is very kind," Captain said. Her smile had not changed, but something in her eyes had shifted. "We appreciate the offer, but we prefer to handle our own security." Ambassador was dispatched to make formal first contact. She was the finest diplomat that had ever produced, with 2 centuries of experience in handling new species. She had welcomed 17 different civilizations into the Concordance. She thought this would be simple. She was wrong. As her shuttle approached the human flagship, reviewed everything the sensors had gathered about these humans. They came from a planet called Earth, a world that made her shudder just reading about it, crushing gravity, wild temperature swings, an atmosphere filled with oxygen which was basically a slow-burning fire, oceans of acid, predators everywhere. How had any intelligent life evolved there at all? She was about to find out. The diplomatic station hung in empty space, far from any planet or star. It was neutral ground, a place where species could meet without the threat of hidden weapons or surprise attacks. Ambassador had conducted hundreds of first contact meetings here. She knew every room, every protocol, every way to make new species feel welcome. The humans arrived in a small shuttle that looked like it had been built by hand, watched through the window as it docked, noting how roughly it moved compared to Concordance vessels. These beings clearly had much to learn about technology. The airlock opened, and the humans walked in. There were 12 of them, 6 males and 6 females. They wore simple uniforms with no decorations except small patches on their shoulders. They carried no visible weapons, but something about the way they moved made uneasy. They walked like hunters. Their eyes swept every corner of the room before they had taken 3 steps inside. Captain led the group. She was shorter than most of her crew, but the others clearly followed her without question. Beside her walked a tall male with sharp features and calm eyes. His name tag read Lieutenant. Ambassador said, bowing her head slightly, "Thank you for meeting with us." Spread her crystal arms in the traditional gesture of welcome. "The Concordance is always happy to greet new friends. Please sit. We have much to discuss." The humans sat around the circular table. Noticed that they positioned themselves with their backs to walls and clear lines of sight to every door. It was subtle, but once she saw it, she could not unsee it. "Your species is fascinating," began. "We have never encountered beings quite like you. May I ask about your—" Smiled. "Earth is challenging. Heavy gravity, strong weather, many dangerous animals. We evolved by learning to survive against everything that wanted to kill us." "How terrible," said with genuine sympathy. "It must have been difficult for your ancestors." Lieutenant made a sound that might have been a laugh. Difficult is one word for it, but it made us strong. Noticed his hands. They were large, with thick fingers and visible calluses. She had seen similar hands on construction machines. These were hands that had done hard physical work. Hands that had gripped, pulled, and struck things. She pushed the thought away and focused on diplomacy. "The Concordance would like to offer your people membership," she said. "We can provide technology, medical knowledge, and protection. In return, we ask only for peaceful cooperation and trade." Protection raised an eyebrow. Protection from what? "The galaxy can be dangerous," explained. "There are pirates, hostile species, territorial disputes. Our combined drone fleets keep the peace, but threats still exist. With Concordance membership, our automated forces would defend your worlds as well." The humans exchanged glances. Something passed between them that could not read. "We appreciate the offer," said. "We would like to learn more before making any decisions." The talks continued for several hours. Explained the history of the concordance, how different species had come together over thousands of years, how they had agreed to let machines handle all conflict so that no organic being would ever die in war again. The humans listened politely, but sensed they were not entirely convinced. It was during a break in the talks that everything changed. Was showing the humans the station's observation deck when the alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed across every wall. The station's computer voice announced the emergency in calm, clinical tones. "Warning, hostile vessels detected, raiders, jamming signals active, automated defense systems offline." Felt her crystal body go cold. They were the most feared pirates in the sector. They were large, reptilian creatures with armored hides and poisonous claws. They attacked ships and stations for supplies, slaves, and sport. Without the station's defense drones, everyone here would be captured or killed. "How many ships?" Lieutenant asked. His voice was completely calm. "4 vessels," the computer replied. "Estimated 120 hostile combatants preparing to board." Wanted to scream. 120 warriors against a diplomatic station with no weapons and no defenses. They were doomed. Captain touched a small device on her wrist. "This is to all units. We have a hostile boarding action incoming. Raiders approximately 120. All personnel prepare for close combat." She looked at her team. They were already moving, pulling objects from their belts and pockets. Small metal tubes that unfolded into longer weapons. Blades that gleamed under the emergency lights. "Wait," said her voice shaking. "What are you doing? You cannot fight them directly. They are apex predators. Their skin can stop energy blasts. Their venom can kill in seconds." Checked her weapon, a device that now recognized as a primitive projectile launcher. "Ambassador, please take your staff to the safest room on this station and seal the door." "But you will be killed." Lieutenant smiled. It was not a nice smile. "They have never met humans before. They do not know what we are." He pulled a long blade from his belt. "They are about to find out." The humans moved toward the airlocks where they would board. They moved in perfect coordination, without speaking, as if they had done this 1,000 times before. Fled to the safe room with her staff, sealed the door, and watched on the security cameras. What she saw next would haunt her dreams for the rest of her very long life. They came through the airlock like a wave of nightmares. They were massive creatures, each one standing over 2 meters tall, covered in scales that could stop a laser blast. Their claws dripped with venom that could paralyze prey in seconds. Their teeth were built for tearing flesh. For 3,000 years, the galaxy had feared them. No species could stand against them in direct combat. That was why everyone used robots instead. The first warrior stepped onto the station, ready to begin the slaughter. He expected to find terrified diplomats hiding in corners, waiting to be taken. He expected easy prey. He found Sergeant instead. Was not a large man by human standards. He stood barely 175 centimeters tall, with a lean build and quick eyes. In his hands, he held a simple projectile rifle, a weapon that considered primitive and useless. The warrior laughed, a hissing sound that echoed through the corridor. He raised his claws and charged. Shot him 3 times in the face. The bullets were not energy blasts that the scales could deflect. They were solid metal, moving at incredible speed, designed to punch through armor. The warrior dropped, dead before he hit the ground. 2 more came through the airlock, shot them both. A 4th warrior got close enough to swing his claws, ducked under the strike, pressed his rifle against the creature's throat and fired twice. 4 seconds, 4 dead. In the safe room, Ambassador stared at the security screen with her mouth hanging open. She had never seen anything like this. She had never imagined anything like this. The battle spread through the station as more boarded from different airlocks. The 12 humans split into teams, moving through the corridors with deadly purpose. Private found herself alone against 5 warriors, her rifle jammed after the first shot. Without hesitation, she dropped it and pulled out a knife. The blade was barely 30 centimeters long. There were monsters with claws that could tear through metal. Did not care. She moved like water, like smoke, like something they had never seen before. She was faster than they could track. When one swung at her, she was already behind him, her blade finding the gap between his scales. When another tried to grab her, she twisted away and opened his throat. It took her 40 seconds to kill all 5. Watched the security feeds and tried to understand what she was seeing. These humans were not using advanced technology. They had no shields, no force fields, no powered armor. They were fighting with pieces of metal and their own bodies. And they were winning. Corporal encountered a squad leader in the engineering section. The creature was even larger than the others, a veteran of dozens of raids. It struck shoulder with its venomous claws, injecting enough poison to kill instantly. Grunted in pain, then he grabbed this arm and broke it. The creature screamed, a sound that echoed through the station. Head butted it in the face, knocking loose several teeth. When it fell, he beat it to death with his bare fists, even as the venom spread through his body. When his squad found him a minute later, he was leaning against the wall, breathing hard, his shoulder swollen and discolored. Private ran to him, the venom. "Burns like fire," said through gritted teeth. "But I can still fight. How many more?" "Maybe 30 left." Pushed himself off the wall. "Then let's finish this." Accessed the human database they had shared during the first contact meeting. She needed to understand. She needed to know what kind of creatures could do what she was watching. She found the answer in a single word. Earth was classified as a planet so hostile that intelligent life should never have evolved there at all. The gravity was crushing by galactic standards. The atmosphere was filled with oxygen, a gas so reactive it was basically a slow fire. The temperature swings were extreme, and everywhere at every moment something was trying to kill something else. Humans had evolved in this hell. They had survived against predators, diseases, natural disasters, and each other. Their bodies were built for endurance, for recovery, for pushing through pain that would kill other species. Their minds were wired for combat in ways no peaceful civilization could match. They did not fight because they had no other choice. They fought because fighting was written into every cell of their being. The last fell 20 minutes after the boarding began. 37 pirates dead, not captured, not disabled, dead. The humans had taken injuries. Sergeant had a deep gash across his back. Private was limping from a wound to her thigh. Corporal was fighting off venom that should have killed him 10 times over. But they were alive, all 12 of them. They gathered in the main corridor, checking each other's wounds, making jokes that did not understand. One of them said something that made the others laugh, even with poison burning through his veins. Captain contacted the safe room. "Ambassador, the station is secure. You can come out now." Opened the door on shaking legs. She walked through corridors that were now painted with blood. She passed bodies of creatures that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, killed by beings who used knives and bullets and bare hands. She found the humans in the medical bay, treating their wounds with surprisingly advanced supplies. "I do not understand," whispered. "You are, how did you?" Looked up from bandaging's back. Her eyes were kind but tired. "We come from a hard world, Ambassador. Everything on Earth is trying to kill us from the day we are born. We just learned to kill it back." She finished the bandage and stood. "This is what we are. This is what humans do." Looked at the 12 soldiers, battered but unbroken, already talking about what to eat for dinner. She finally understood what a really was. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. A species of organic soldiers had appeared from the edge of known space. They had fought raiders with their bare hands. They had won. At first, no one believed it. The Concordants had spent 3,000 years building a civilization where organic beings never faced violence directly. The idea that any species would choose to fight in person seemed insane. It was primitive. It was barbaric. Then they saw the footage. Security cameras on the diplomatic station had recorded everything. The videos showed humans moving through corridors, engaging warriors with nothing but simple weapons and their own bodies. They showed Corporal breaking a arm while venom pumped through his veins. They showed Private killing 5 enemies with a knife the length of her forearm. The videos became the most watched media in galactic history. Beings from every species watched in horror, fascination, and something else they could not name. The High Council summoned the humans for testimony. They wanted answers. They needed to understand. Captain arrived with Lieutenant and Master Sergeant. Was older than the others, a man in his 50s with hair and scars that crossed his face like a map of violence. He had fought in wars on 3 different planets before the humans ever left their home system. The council chamber was a vast dome filled with representatives from every concordant species. Crystalline floated in suspension fields. Aquatic watched from water-filled tanks, clicked their mandibles nervously. They had all seen the videos. They all had questions. The oldest alive spoke first. His crystal body was ancient and cracked, but his voice was strong. "We have watched your battle recordings," he said. "We have studied your biology. We understand that you are physically capable of combat. What we do not understand is why. Why do you fight yourselves when machines could do it for you?" Captain looked at. He stepped forward, his face unreadable. "May I speak honestly?" he asked. "Please," said. Was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. When he spoke, his voice was rough with years of shouting orders over gunfire. "On Earth, we have a saying, if you are not willing to die for something, you do not truly value it." He looked around the chamber at the alien faces. "You built robots to protect your worlds, your families, your way of life, but you are not willing to risk yourselves for those things. So how much do you really value them?" The chamber went silent. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. "That is not fair," a diplomat said. "We value life, that is why we protect it." "You protect existence," replied. "That is not the same as living. A machine can exist, a machine can function, but a machine cannot love its home so much that it would bleed for it." He touched the longest scar on his face. "I got this defending a city on our colony world. 10,000 people lived there, families, children, friends. When the enemy came, I did not send a robot to stop them. I went myself, because those people mattered to me." "And if you had died," asked. "Then I would have died for something worth dying for. That is what it means to be human." His voice softened. "Your machines can break, they can be hacked, they can be jammed like they were on the station. But this," he put his hand over his heart, "this does not stop fighting until it stops beating, and sometimes it does not even stop then." The council discussed for hours. Some called the humans dangerous, others called them inspiring. A few suggested they should be banned from concordant space entirely. Then the reports arrived from the border. They were mobilizing their full military fleet, not pirates and raiders, but their actual navy. 300 warships, 10 million combat drones. They were coming for revenge against the species that had humiliated them. Against 12,000 human soldiers. The Concordant's military commanders presented their analysis. The numbers were hopeless. The humans had a small expeditionary force with limited ships and no drone army. They had overwhelming firepower and 3,000 years of military tradition. "We can send our automated fleets to assist," Admiral offered. "Combined Concordance forces would take 3 weeks to assemble," another commander interrupted. "They will arrive in 4 days." Captain stood. "May I speak?" The chamber fell silent. "We do not need 3 weeks," she said. "We do not need your drone fleets. We just need you to stay out of our way." Admiral stared at her. "You have 12,000 soldiers. They have 10 million drones and 300 ships." Smiled. It was the same smile had seen before they boarded the station. The smile of a predator. "Yes, they do. That is their problem, not ours." Lieutenant pulled up a holographic display of the sector. He pointed to a station near the border, a relay hub that they would have to pass. "Relay Station 7, he said. "That is where we will meet them. That is where we will show them what 12,000 humans can do." Master Sergeant cracked his knuckles. The sound echoed through the silent chamber. "They think they are coming to fight machines," he said. "They are wrong. They are coming to fight us." The fleet arrived like a storm of metal and fire. 300 warships emerged from hyperspace, each one carrying thousands of combat drones. Admiral, the most decorated commander in history, stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The humans had gathered at Relay Station 7, just as his intelligence had predicted. Their tiny fleet of crewed ships was nothing compared to his armada. This would not be a battle, it would be an execution. "Launch all drone squadrons," commanded. "Destroy their ships, capture any survivors. I want to personally feed these humans to my pets." 10 million drones poured from the vessels, a cloud of death that blocked out the stars. On the human command ship, General Bora watched the same display. She was a small woman with iron hair and eyes that had seen more combat than most species could imagine. She had fought in 6 wars before she turned 40. "They're launching everything," Lieutenant reported. 10 million units. "Good," Bora said. "That means they're not watching their own ships." She opened a channel to all human vessels. "All units, this is General Bora. We are not going to fight their drones. We are going to board their ships." She paused to let that sink in. "Strike teams will launch immediately. Our target is the organic command structure. Cut off the head and the body dies." The human soldiers had been preparing for this moment. They loaded into boarding craft, small vessels designed to punch through ship hulls and deliver troops directly inside. Each craft held 40 soldiers. 300 boarding craft launched from the human fleet. Admiral saw them coming too late. "What are they doing? Those are not combat vessels." "They appear to be. Boarding craft, Admiral." Laughed. "Boarding craft. They intend to board our ships with organic soldiers." He shook his massive head. "Let them come. Our internal defenses will tear them apart." The first boarding craft hits flagship with a screaming crash of metal. The hull tore open, and human soldiers poured inside. Lieutenant led the assault team. She was young, only 26 years old, but she had been training for combat since she was 16. She dropped through the breach with her rifle up and her eyes scanning for targets. The internal defenses activated immediately. Turrets emerged from the walls, firing energy blasts. Security drones rushed to intercept. Did not slow down. Her team moved through the ship like ghosts made of violence. They used cover, coordinated fire, and brutal efficiency that the automated systems could not match. The turrets tracked targets, but humans did not move in predictable patterns. The drones responded to programmed scenarios, but humans invented new scenarios with every breath. In 6 minutes, his team had carved a path to the engine room. "Charges set," Sergeant Minu reported, wiping blood from a cut on his forehead. "Ready to disable." "Hold," ordered. "We're going for the bridge." Across the fleet, the same scene repeated on every vessel. Human soldiers punched through hulls, overwhelmed internal defenses, and pushed toward command centers. The warriors inside tried to stop them. They failed. Private was part of the team attacking a destroyer. He was 22 years old, tall and strong, with a smile that made his laugh. He was also one of the best shots in his unit. A plasma burst caught him in the left arm. The limb came off at the elbow, cauterized by the heat, looked at the stump for exactly 2 seconds. Then he tied off the wound with his belt, picked up his rifle with his remaining hand, and kept fighting. His squad leader grabbed his shoulder. "Fall back, get to medical." "Medical can wait," said through gritted teeth. "The mission can't." He moved forward, firing one-handed, putting down warriors with shots that would have been impressive with 2 arms. When he ran out of ammunition, he picked up a fallen enemy's weapon and kept going. Later, when asked why he didn't retreat, his answer became legend throughout the concordance. "My squad was still fighting." On the flagship, Admiral finally understood what was happening. His tactical display showed disaster after disaster. Ship after ship was going dark, their command crews killed or captured. Without organic commanders to make decisions, his drone swarms were becoming uncoordinated, easy targets. He had 10 million drones. The humans had 12,000 soldiers. And he was losing. The door to his bridge exploded inward. Lieutenant stepped through the smoke, her armor scorched and her face bloody, but her rifle steady. "Admiral," she said, "you can surrender or you can die, I don't care which." Was a warrior. His species had been apex predators for millions of years. He roared and charged at this tiny human female, claws extended, venom dripping. Shot him twice in the knee, dropping him to the deck. She walked forward, placed her boot on his neck, and pressed the barrel of her rifle against his skull. "Surrender," she said calmly, "or die." Surrendered. The Battle of Relay Station 7 lasted 6 hours, 300 warships, 10 million combat drones, against 12,000 human soldiers with boarding craft and determination. The humans won. Not every soldier survived. 412 humans died in the assault. Their names were carved into a memorial that would stand for 1,000 years, but the fleet was broken. Their admirals were captured or dead. Their drones drifted without commands. For the first time in galactic history, a drone-based military had surrendered to organic soldiers. The treaty was signed 1 week later. They agreed to pay reparations, recognize human territory, and never again attack beings who chose to fight their own battles. But the real change was bigger than any treaty. Within a year, the first volunteer corps was formed. Young crystals who watched the videos and wanted to know what it felt like to fight for something they loved. The followed with aquatic marine units. Even the humbled and fascinated sent observers to human military academies. Ambassador, who had watched those first 12 human slaughter raiders on a diplomatic station, became the leading scholar of human military philosophy. Her most famous work was quoted for generations. "We built robots to protect us from death," she wrote. "Humans understood what we forgot. The willingness to face death is what makes life worth living. They do not fight because they have no choice. They fight because they know some battles must be personal. Some victories only matter when they cost something real." Captain, promoted to admiral, established the first integrated concordance combat unit. Organic soldiers from 12 species trained together, fought together, bled together. A reporter asked her once what made human soldiers so effective. She smiled that predator smile. "We are not better than anyone else," she said. "We are just used to being afraid and fighting anyway. Any species can learn that." She looked at the young and recruits training beside her humans. They just need to be brave enough to try. The galaxy was no longer defended by robots alone. And somehow, against all logic, it was safer than ever before. Because now, when beings fought, they fought for things that mattered. They fought with their hearts, their blood, and their bare hands. Just like humans always had.